Hey guys, welcome to your daily December download. Man, we're almost done with these. What number are we on? 21? Alright, there's a few more days left and then I could actually write videos again. So today I watched the first two episodes of the Percy Jackson TV show. If you guys don't know anything about me, which you probably don't, I love Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson is I didn't grow up with Harry Potter, I grew up with Percy Jackson, and honestly, from what I hear about Harry Potter, I think I got out on the good end of history on that one. But I'm not a blind fan. I'm very trepidatious about adaptations of this series, especially after the movies. The first one being Lightning Thief, which is a mediocre movie, but a god-awful adaptation, and then The Sea of Monsters, which is even worse as a movie and as an adaptation. They just said, screw it. We don't care about the original source material. We just want to do our own thing that doesn't make any sense anymore. There was some interesting ideas in it, but overall, garbage movies that I can't recommend to anyone. You could maybe enjoy the first one if you never read the books, but that's about it. They're not high quality products, unlike the books, which have so many books in it. Like there's the original 5, then there's Heroes of Olympus, and then there's the Trials of Apollo, and then there's also the Magus Chase books, and then also there was a 6th book that just came out because of the new TV show, and I haven't read it yet, but I look forward to it. And I also haven't read Trials of Apollo. I skipped that as a kid because I did not want to read another Rick Riordan epic yearly after I caught up to Heroes of Olympus and had to wait for House of Hades, and then I had to wait for Blood of Olympus. I said never again. That was the worst 3 years of my life. Mark of Athena and House of Hades are peak though. Holy, he cooked with those. Anyway, so about the show. It's like, so I was actually kind of not looking forward to this show. Like, I'm very trepidatious about adaptations, about things that I love. I very rarely get a W, and the trailers were iffy. I could recognize things that they were adapting, but then there was a problem with, the delivery of lines wasn't great when I was hearing them, and then also the CGI looked spotty, and I was worried, like, okay, well, is this gonna have that TV budget CGI? And so those were my worries going in. I didn't think that the CGI in action would be very good, and I didn't think the acting from especially the child actors wouldn't really do too well. I did expect it to be an accurate adaptation with some light changes along the way, just for better pacing. The first book takes a long time to get going, to the point where Percy doesn't get claimed by Poseidon till chapter 8 or 9 of the original book, while in the show it happens in episode 2, which is after a reasonable period of time than if they followed the book verbatim. So let's just get into it. The first episode basically covers the first few chapters up until he gets to Camp Half-Blood. So about chapter 4 or 5 is what it gets to, and it crunches down the first few chapters, because the first few chapters has a gimmick of taking over a long period of time. The field trip happens in fall or winter, and then they don't, and then then Percy just has to go with everyone thinking he's crazy for about 6 months until summer, and then we get home to his mom, and then we go to the beach house, and then we go then we have the whole Minotaur thing. It's like and that whole chase, and then we get there. It's like, so there's a long period of time and a lot of build up and a lot of mystery that he doesn't do here, because it's too obvious to the audience after a certain period of time, and that can't be paced out properly in a show without it getting annoying. It takes 3 episodes to reveal that the main character is the son of Poseidon, when the audience probably figured it out by episode 2. it would be kind of bad pacing. So I appreciate that they sped it up, getting it through in a reasonable time. I mean, technically the movie did it even quicker, but you know, this is actually good pacing. Like, it introduced us to Grover, introduced us to Chiron, introduced us to second episode introduced us to Annabeth and Luke. But yeah. Anyway, so changes there. It's like, so they made some minor changes that were actually for the better, and I think every change they've kind of made has kind of been for the better. In terms of like plotting and pacing, or even just visually showing things off, I do think that the camp is beautiful to look at. I'm glad they shot on location and it doesn't look like a CGI background. If it is all CGI, impressive. If it is, but I don't think it is. It looks great. The lighting, it must be annoying as hell to shoot everything on location, but the camp looks amazing. Looks like everything I've had in my head. And the directing was really good. There's a scene where Percy and his mother are talking with each other, and after the car gets flipped over, and they use the headlights as lighting for the scene, because it's nighttime, there is no lighting, so using that as lighting was such a clever idea, and like it looked so good. And then episode 2, just seeing the campers out for the war thing, everything looks so dynamic, everything looks great. It doesn't look like a bunch of kids cosplaying. It looks real. I believe it. The world is sucking me in, and the writing was also pretty top-notch. It was taken straight out of the books half the time, and when they did switch stuff up from the books, it actually was pretty well done. My biggest problem, though, that's probably going to knock this adaptation down a few points, is not the casting itself, but the fact that a lot of the child actors aren't great actors yet. They're just not. They don't have the skills to pay the bills. The kid, and my biggest critique is Percy and Annabeth. Annabeth, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe this is just the direction they're going with her being a little bit more stoic, a little bit more objectively mean to Percy at first, so they could soften that up over time. And now that like we know the arc they're gonna go on, where they're gonna be like dating and married in the future, so like we know how it's gonna go. So maybe he's trying to set it up a little bit harder. So I'll leave my judgment on Annabeth aside, but Percy isn't good at emoting. He's good at showing happy or positive emotions, and he could kind of have a certain level of sadness or melancholy in his voice and desperation, but he doesn't have a certain level of charisma that Percy has when you're reading it, and that's something that you can't be like that. Like either you have or you don't. So I can't get too much on him. It's not his fault. He wasn't born with insane Tom Cruise charisma, but also he can't emote strong emotions. When things have to be strong, he could do subtle, but he holds himself back. To act, you have to let go of your ego a little bit. You have to let go of that part of you that wants to protect yourself. You have to be vulnerable on screen if you want to get those real emotions, and I don't think he's ready for that yet, and that's causing me to have a little bit of disconnect when he's at even I was watching this with my girlfriend. We were watching it together, and like even she's not a big film person. She was enjoying the adaptation just like I was, but like on a writing and a directing standpoint. But the biggest flaw was the child actors. They just were not doing their job all the way. They could have been better, and I don't know whether they're blaming the directors or just natural talent, the casting people, because I think like they do most of their job right. They just aren't hitting the exact beats they need to be believable. And I think that's if the show keeps going, like we get more seasons, this is insanely successful, which I hope it is. I really love what we've gotten so far. Maybe the kids could develop, and then by the time we get to like the third or fourth book, where things really have to get really dark and emotional, and there's a lot of stuff happening, hopefully we can get to there, and then they're better actors by then. But right now I'm getting more Disney Channel than HBO, if you know what I mean, and that's just something I can't shake. I mean, I'm used to watching Disney Channel. I grew up on it, so I could deal and still like believe what's happening, but it's a genuine problem that I hope gets fixed either as the show goes on, as the characters get more sucked into the roles, because I think because they maybe like hopefully they recorded the episodes in order, so like maybe he'll be better by the end of it. But I do think genuine critique for the kid. He needs to let himself go, get more immersed into the role, even more than he already is, and let yourself get angry and let yourself get sad, because there's a lot of pain that you have to portray in this film, in this show, from this character, especially in this story, and I hope he's able to deliver on that in the future. Action-wise, I think there was only like one major action scene with the Minotaur, and the Minotaur action scene was a little dark, but I think that was good because, you know, it's TV show budget, CGI, you can't show it too well. I think they showed it enough, and they literally just copied the book word for word. Like, it was verbatim what the book happened, what happened in the book, so I got no complaints about how the fight scene played out. It's like, oh wow, it's everything that was in my head to a certain degree. So I'm glad that that's being translated, so that gives me faith for some of the later stuff that's going to be adapted. I wonder what things they are going to skip and what things they are going to adapt. There's some silly stuff that they don't really need to have, but there's also some fun stuff that I hope they don't. If you know about the bed store, I hope they don't cut it, even though that bed store part, it's kind of just filler. But I hope they don't cut. There's some stuff that I've seen in the trailers that I know they're not going to cut, so I'm not too worried about that, like the whole spider thing that Annabeth and Percy are going to have to deal with. So I'm genuinely looking forward to watching this week to week. I finally have a reason to use my Disney Plus subscription, and it's something I'm very interested in, so I'm actually going to watch it weekly. I'm probably not going to make videos on it weekly. I'll make like an overview of the show later. If you're wondering why I'm not using footage from the show, besides, you know, me just not editing, because, you know, I got to get these videos up quickly, it's also because I don't want to get copyrighted, and I don't mess with Disney. That's just not my thing. Not my style. So I'm just gonna do it like this with whatever gameplay footage, maybe Ghost of Tsushima that I put on, just to show off. But yeah, looking forward to more. I genuinely recommend it, especially if you read the books. Genuinely good starting point. I just think if you can push past the child actors not being great, you can have a pretty good time with the story, because the writing and the directing is on point. It's literally just the acting that's throwing me off, and that's like so important. So I hope that gets better or gets fixed in later seasons and the kids improve and take some acting class lessons. But, you know, I'm harping on these kids too much, you know. I feel like I'm being a internet bully, like those fucking guys like Leafy back in the day. You guys remember Leafy? I remember Leafy. I used to watch Leafy. I was also 13, but, you know. All of us learn better eventually. Anyway, well, thank you for watching the video. This is going to be it for today. I got to record some extra stuff tomorrow because I'm going to be gone for a week, so I got to have a lot of videos in reserve. So that's going to be my tomorrow. Recording a bunch of videos ahead of time. Thank you so much, and I'll see you tomorrow.